just brought in the word initiation, and you said that you're excited to start talking about this. And I invite you to keep going from what was just bubbling up in you then.
Let's start.
Yeah.
Oh. I start directly from the conversation I was having before that call. I was sitting here with Maria, and we were talking about what turns us on, and I got touched by what I discovered while speaking, that I'm turned on by this shift that happens in the initiation process. Sometimes for the outside it sounds simple or small, but in the life of the person that went through, it's a big shift. And it's this small shifts that happens from shape, or from moving from being a planet. In possibility management is this picture that the planet is consuming more energy than radiating, to a star that is radiating more energy than consuming. And this, for me, it's a piece of initiation, what my defining initiation for me in my experience, that is a shift that happens not just in the mental body, but in the all dimensions, all the 5 bodies, of being able to radiate more than consuming. And it doesn't mean that you are radiating more energy in all the facets of your life. Sometimes is one single facet. So for example, learning to say no and yes. When you learn to say yes and no authentically from your center, connect with what you really want, you started to create and to radiate more energy, because you are choosing. You're not being passive to others choose. So a really simple example to get that is, you are in a circle of friends and you are gathered together to decide which pizza we'll eat today. And I remember myself 1 year and a half ago, that I got totally confused in such a moment, like deciding which pizza we will eat. And the confusion was, what do I want? What they want? This not knowing. And what do you want? You choose. What do you want? Oh no, you choose. What do you want? You choose. And in the end, it was like no choice. And recently I had the experience of having this experience of ordering a pizza in a group, and it came clear. I connect with my body, and I want mushroom with gorgonzola cheese pizza. This is what came. It's what I want. And then I externalize that, and then these ignite people to, okay, I want margarita. And then we discovered that we could ask 4 flavors, so 4 flavors in the same pizza. And the end we had 4 different flavors. We were 5, and we could taste another 10 flavors. And this is a simple example about you radiating. You are creating the space, the collaboration. So this brings to a really practical way, not so much theoretical. So I think that this is something is alive for me now.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts and feelings about that?
It really lands for me. And where I want to go with it kind of takes a little step back and a zoom out, is like, why does that matter now, and how does that change what is possible for humans to do or be with right now on the earth?
The first thought that comes is the structure or the central value of capitalism is creating a fake scarcity to create more consumism, to create more products and more consuming, because this generates more profit to the owners of the production line, from the fabrics, from the companies. So there is a introjection that we receive since little about consuming. And so this is, I think, in a sociological society perspective, we are trained to consume. And when you go to the perspective of our development, as child, we need to consume. We are consuming. We don't have the structure or the capacity as a little child to provide food, to provide shelter, to provide needs. When you're a little child, we can't even go to the bathroom. Like, we need help even to shit, like to clean the shit, in the basic level. So we are consuming, and so this is I see as a natural part of the cycle of life, even in the nature, when a small plant is being really small and is consuming a lot of energy from the system. And there is a point that there is a shift that happens, that there is more radiation of energy than consuming of energy. And when we see about sustainability and regeneration and how it is the situation of the earth, in the levels of water, the levels of diversification. These are, oh my god, some English words.
Yes, go.
The diversity of species, like all of it's going like down and down, and it's life. It's asking for regeneration, for humans beings radiating more energy than consuming, than taking it, than extracting, than taking it for me. So your question is about how this is connected with the earth, and is it what you asked?
Right now, and
now,
what I hear in your answer is what my question was going for, which was, why is it that initiation, or how is it that initiation will like serve humanity and the earth in creating new results?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's that need for our, where we are in the history of humanity right now, to humans being able to be creative, collaborated with each other, and create and source more than consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings what it's really central point of the research and possibility management, about the relationship with responsibility. The level that the way we relate with responsibility, and how much, because responsibility is the ability of create, the ability of response and create different resources, different results. And a child have a really small capacity to create. And technically, we are designed to slowly grow our capacity of response, of acting, of creating, of being creators. But what happens is that because the way our parents and the parents of our parents, and this is my theory, and all the people, we have a bad and a guilty and a bad relationship with responsibility. As parents, there is this tendency to crystallize the growing up of the responsibility in a child. So, for example, when a child is learning to brush the teeth, this child is learning to take responsibility by her own teeth. So the mother will not need to all the time go there and brush the teeth, but the child started to grow the muscle that she has the capacity to brush her own teeth. Or when a child started to use a knife, and then started to see, oh, this is can cut, and if I do like that, I cut myself. Oh, it's painful. I have to take care of it. So there is this learning with it. And then sometimes what happens is a mother's like, no, don't use a knife. Go watching TV while I'm cooking, because I'm cooking now and this is not for child. In this moment, there is a frozen in the growing of the responsibility of the child in relating with a knife. That this is sharp, that it cut me, this can hurt another person. So this is some small examples of our relationship responsibility and how can be frozen during the childhood. That could naturally be grown in a way that when we are prepared to be adults, we could have a shift. So yeah, you interrupt me if you have questions. I have some thoughts coming, so you keep going.
And then just keep going. Yeah. I do just want to say, like, the initiation is or just sort of repeat back what I hear is like these micro or seemingly little things that happen in childhood all either like build up a structure that's solid and mature enough to go through like initiation at around like in adolescence into adulthood, or it will depending on how the adults meet that child, it might like wither, like shut down some of the structure. And it doesn't mean that the initiation into adulthood can't happen. It just means it will be different.
Yes, I don't believe that there is one way or one kind of initiation. Yeah. For me, initiation is a bright principle. And it's about this growing and unfolding a capacity of taking more responsibility to something. And the effect of a child learning something by itself could be initiation. Because when you are learning something, you are learning you are gaining more power. Because power, I think I was reading yesterday Janet, when Janet was showing me something, and I love it. It was the definition that power is your capacity to mobilize resources to do and create what you want. So when a child is learning, and child is learning all the time, and I would dare to say that we are learning all the time. The thing is, you try to not learn for one day. Try to see. So a child is just observing things all the time. And this learning process, it's growing the capacity to have more power, to hold more power, to be able to mobilize more resources. And because we go to school and all the ways we are sometimes holding back to grow, it takes time when you are technically adult to even prepare, like to grow that parts to go into initiations. So I think there's different dimensions, but what I wanted to explore, especially that part that we naturally are designed to become to radiate more than consuming, and that there is the possibility of us as space holders for children. Because I'm inviting to not see anymore as parents, but as space holders. We like parents, it's trying to control the children, or this is my children. But the invitation is about how we are space holders for that beings that's coming to Earth right now. So
Even
as a
if they're
space
not
holder,
your biological
even
children.
even that is not my child that I get birth, or is my DNA from my DNA lineage. So when I'm holding space for that child, how do I hold space for this child in her own unfolding? That is not a thing, is unfolding of a being. It started to grow and to grow the capacity that she's designed for. To take responsibility, to learn to cook the food, and how we as an adult can be close, holding space for them as a anchor, but not like controlling, like take care that you will burn your hand or you cut your hand, and trying to to control. And I notice I feel fear when I'm sharing about that, because I don't have an experiential experience with it. Like I never worked directly with child. I already observed a lot, and I was recently, not too long ago in the time, a child. So I have a lot of memory how it was. But this is my thoughts that it's coming more and more clear about we are designed naturally, and it's about how do we hold space for as children naturally grow that capacity. And then there is a totally whole new territory that is for us, that who are already adults, that we already have a structure shaped and a box and a life. What is the process to travel into the initiations, the needed initiations to grow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to speak about some like examples of what an initiation actually is. Some examples of what initiations can look like. And first I have this I read recently about the as a young child is growing, it's natural for them to develop a box structure, like a structure, a way of filtering the world and bringing on culture and stories and beliefs and identities. And this is a natural part of growing. Like it's really, it is a part of coming into form as a human. And then at a certain age, which is around adolescence, there's enough maturity for that to start going liquid and to become more expansive than crystallized or rigid.
Mm-hmm.
And what really turns me on is like indigenous tribes all over the world recognize this, and they used that moment in a human's life to turn this towards the cultural traditions and beliefs of the tribe. And so the tribe would go on for generations and generations. And that is not the kind of initiation that I'm talking about here. Like that is not what I see as necessary. And it is still an initiation, but it's not to orientate the person's to a certain worldview or to a certain tradition or to a certain culture. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, would you say instead, like it's not to orientate towards an institution, a tradition, a culture? Instead, what would you say more? What is the initiation you're talking about then?
The closest thing, and you've already spoken about it, is like, first of all, I don't know. I feel scared because I actually don't know what that other thing is. And I have real experience in my system of this turning of my energy, which becomes more free and available to me to choose and to create things and to take a stand for things. And this here is the closest, like transitioning into a star state rather than a planet state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I notice I don't have a huge like vision or all the pieces there of what this really is about. The next.
And we'll say one example. You said you have some examples of experiences. Will you share one example of that shift you sensed, that you experienced?
Inside, are you speaking about the examples of an actual process or of things I've noticed inside?
No, you said that you have some examples of initiations you went through that you could experience the shift happening.
Oh yeah.
So will you say one example of that? Like some initiation you went through and you could experience the shift.
A big one is going through a I wonder what that fear is about. I notice I freeze and I don't want to put words to it. And my fear is that I'm putting into a space something that is really precious to each individual, and the initiations that the person is ready for will be so different to what I was ready for.
Mm-hmm.
So one initiation for me was choosing to buy myself reusable pads and soaking my own, when I'm bleeding, pads in water and then tipping my blood back onto the earth. And this gave me a new relationship with my body and the earth. And it seems really little.
Mm-hmm. And what were the results that you could experience different in your life?
To speak more freely about having a period and having a body and being a woman, and to have less of a constriction around me in my system of that being my reality. And that's so little. And then I have examples of going to, in a lab space, going to high, like in almost 100% rage. And this did something to me. Like this really shifted my relationship to the energy and information of anger in my body. And it makes the way I regulate my temperature has changed, the way that I choose things changed, the way I speak has changed, the way I hold myself changes. And And I went through that initiation because it was there and it was right and it was ready for me. And it's not always, it's not like a formula that each person goes through.
Yeah, one piece that is coming when you're speaking is that piece that initiation happens not by forcing, or not like a linear way as the school, like, okay, you are 18, now you go to that. It's not something linear. It's about there is certain preparation or capacity that takes to you that drives you to that next expansion or that space. And one topic that draws me is about preparation to initiations. Like takes preparation to go to certain initiations. And I was talking with some young adults in a hostel, and the purpose was to take some inspiration to write on a website that I'm working on, and I was asking them, like, how do you become adult? And I don't know. I just became. Or, well, I started to drink and I think there I was adult. Or now I pay my bills and I'm responsible. So the person said the word responsibility, but it was something in the way of like I pay my bills and yes, like I'm responsible to source financial resources, money to myself. It's a level of getting more responsibility in their own life. But there was like any of them shared some process that brought them to this shift. And then I was thinking about like when a child grows for 14 or 15 years sitting in a chair on a chair, being trained to be addicted to external responses. So, well, there's 4 and there's 10. 10 is good grade. 4, you are in recovery, you have to study more. 4 is bad. 10, you are a great student. So this starts to create an outer reference to external motivation, for example. And this creates pathways in the nervous system totally direct to consuming, to a way of interacting with the world of I give you that, I get that. I give you the right answer and you give me the recognition of a 10, for example. And this month after month, again and again, it starts to become normal. It starts to become like, for me, it was normal to study and memorize answers for a test. It wasn't so normal. And I never questioned that actually. But when I look backwards and when I started to feel my feelings, I got how threatened and how scary it was. To always have this level of fear of will I pass in the test? Will I be approved? And so when we are trained in that direction, it takes spaces of healing and preparation to create enough space to growing up process, because it's I think it's different purpose, initiation and healing. A healing space is a different from the initiation space in my experience. And what I appreciate about an explain the box training is that I see that there's 3 elements. There is initiation, there's transformation, and there's healing. but it's three different things. And I want to experiment. I expand the box again to notice that things, because when I did before, I didn't had any question about that, and this is alive now. So I want to notice how this is designed in an expand the box trainer. And for who is watching and don't know, expand the box training is an initiatory healing transformational space that is holding in the context of radical responsibility and possibility management. And for me, it was one of the initiation spaces I could tell for myself I was. Because after that experience, I grow I gain power to mobilize resources in my life, in reality. So I remember 1 month after the expand the box, I was able to mobilize my anger to ask a person, will you borrow me this instrument that I wanted to play? It was a guitar, and I didn't want to buy it. Will you borrow me your guitar for 1 week? So I could mobilize this resource. And I before I was with a lot of shyness, so I would never ask to someone to borrow me something from her. Especially that I have a story that is something special to her, and I would not ask. I will not even ask. This is a small example, but I couldn't do that before, and I couldn't do later after the initiation. So I think
you were speaking about the difference, preparations for initiation, and the difference between healing and initiation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I would say that if we could weavening with the beginning of what you're speaking, so what is it an initiation? Or what could define possibly an initiation? One thing I get so far from my experience is a process, such a process that after it you can apply in reality. By reality I mean daily life. In relationship with your partner, with your mother, in your work, in the city, with the woman in the supermarket, everywhere. You can apply a new way of being. You can apply you can apply in reality the shift. So it's not something theoretically that you learned and you speak about, but it's something that you have a practical access in reality. Like before, you couldn't anyway look at a person and say, get 2 steps away from me, I want my space. And after some process, you can do it. Or you didn't know how to walk, and after a process that is a learning process that happened in our body, we learn to walk through following, receiving beeps, learning again, we standing up, walking, like we learn to walk. I don't know if you already watched a child walking. I could experience that not too far ago, and it's beautiful to witnessing the child learning, like holding the things, and then I will try without holding now, and then and cry, and it's like, oh, hurt, ouch, 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 and then stand, okay, try again, and then 3 steps, fall again, and balancing and learning to balancing, and the whole weight of the body, it's in shaping, is reshaping. It's I see initiation as a process like that is held by life itself, and that might be held by another human beings that let life through themselves.
it was coming alive for me as you brought this bit about adults not letting the child bloom into responsibility. As if it hasn't happened for them, it's they're numb to what they're doing, and and when I say it, I mean if the adults or parents haven't gone through that process themselves, then it's not something that they can offer the child.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of supposed adults that is raising children, but it's like children raising children. And it's quite chaotic, the kind of dynamic that emerges from it. And then it's also quite dangerous when working with children, that the children will come back to the same environment. So for example, if you hold space for a child learn to feel, and the parents have totally a block with feeling, this child come back to the home and could be worse, because they need the survival strategy to survive in the environment they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite dangerous to work with children without working with the parents, or with the space holders of the children.
Mm-hmm.
In my perspective.
Yeah, I notice. So I'm trying on this title of initiation midwife. It's a job that I can unfold into, and can unfold me as well. And I notice that these levels of inhabiting, or these levels of creating, need to happen, and they're in, like me, like as an individual, and then also like this breathing life into the village to hold that transformation and to make that real, and to pull it out of me, and to remind me also, and to not have this. I notice in me the letting die the image of the nuclear family and the individual, no, and the isolation, and the me as a soul entity that dies. And it doesn't mean that I lose my strong like rootedness in the earth, and who I am and what I stand for. And it's like more fully becoming a tree in a forest, in connection with all of the life.
As if you speak from the place as initiator midwife, and you let us speak into it, what would be possible initiations you see? For example, for growing the responsibility with Earth, with Gaia.
I'm going to go with it, even though it seems disconnected, but there is this healing that needs to happen inside humans, because without that, there's this constant war and taking from the earth. And there's this real tenderness to hold that wound inside people, because there is a part of them that feels that has been abused because of having that deep connection to the earth anyway. Like you were born into a physical body with this deep knowledge of being earth, and like being connected to everything. And so was I. And all these scars, all these cuts happened coming into the world. And it's like, I get part of the initiation midwife role is to hold space for that to heal fully. Otherwise, any sort of act is a spiritual bypass or a fantasy.
So I'm hearing that some of the things that turns you on, or that you take a stand for, is to being an initiator midwife and holding space for healing the connection with Earth.
Yeah. Through people's bodies, all the bodies.
Do you have an space where people can find you about that?
Not specifically, and there's strands of it coming through in each thing I'm doing at the moment, in all my writing and the processes I'm holding space for, and in that. But I notice I want to open a space that is more about that. And yeah, and I'm also in my apprenticeship still with that as well. And I'm glad about that.
Yeah, I'm glad, and I ask that because I think this is a necessity that we are as human, we're missing that. So my invitation is, yeah, through, especially if you somehow you are watching and you have a resonance with it, with what you, Millicent, shared now, that you pull out the necessity from Millicent. So Millicent creates this space. Because one of the things that I see in the village, it is this pulling out the necessity. So this space is created because then it's possible to inhabit it, and you are a specific doorway for it. There is no doorway for this, what you want to offer. And there are some people that this is their next step. Their next step is not go to ATB, is not to go to a camping, is not to go to a rage club. Their next step is to go to that space that you described.
Yeah, it touches me because it really mirrors my own journey. It was so gentle at the beginning.
And I see this is as part of the initiation. Creation and my and I notice I keep staying my perspective, and I think this reflects the fear about, like, okay, I'm speaking from my perspective, of course. Anyway, just a meta comment, but I see initiation and creation is like a couple. It's like it's together. And yeah, and there's something in me about the creation process that is this emergence of this that come through you, and that is unique. And the one of the questions I'm carrying with me is, what is the initiations that takes to unleash the creators in us? this part that have the capacity to mobilize resources to create that you you have the seed, that you carry the seed. Your being as a being, not as a thing, are the seed, you are the doorway for it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that feeling? It seems that you're feeling something.
I notice I feel scared about that because I get a sense, and I feel my joy as well. There's this fear of the delicacy of naming something, that of a lot of labels around creation that I feel scared people withdraw from. Like they call themselves like, I'm not a creator, or I'm not an artist, or this isn't available to me. And my fear is around like the non-linear way that reconnecting with that creation seed inside of the person isn't happens. Yeah, it's not linear. Like the initiation happens, the healing happens, the creation happens, and it's like they all sort of plop 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 out together. And the capacity to like have enough sensitivity for that process is so powerful when the timing's right and the rhythm is right. And yeah, because it's so quick to also have the wrong amount of energy or the wrong timing, and it goes. I feel sad about that.
Because
And I feel sad about that because the level of numbness in the world too is means that does happen, and I feel sad that happens. Like this warping of the natural unfolding of somebody's seed or potential.
What is the question you've been carrying about or around the topic of initiation?
It's really close to why hasn't, I guess this is my anger, and there is a question in there somewhere about why yeah, I'm trying to stay away from the why question, but it's like, how can initiations be accessible to people now? Like people coming out of high school, people was there in high school, and it's like, what needs to happen to get the resources and the people and the like publicity around it, and so that like the tipping point happens that most adolescents are going through initiations rather than not.
Yeah. When I hear that question, I notice I feel fear, because I feel fear because I notice in myself the tendency of putting labels or transforming things into rules. I'm researching how the rules that I carry and then I act from. And I'm not so clear yet. But what I notice is that I tend to transform a lot of things into rules. And so, for example, one rule I catch is that it's bad to not feel. Before I had the rule, I cannot feel. It's bad to feel. And now I flip and I catch that when I was talking with my mother, and I noticed she was numbing her feeling, her fear, and then I noticed that rules like she should share her fear now because she is feeling fear. And so this is the parent lens, the parent ego state lens of relating with the world. So when I was writing the website to the project 18 What Now, I was observing part of me with that, like it should exist initiations everywhere as soon as possible, because without initiations, like people not becoming responsible and adults, what will happen with the world? Like we need that. So I don't have a ready conclusion, but it's is that the line between like we should have initiations available to everyone, and I'm discovering while I'm speaking with you now that what turns me really on is about the discovery of 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 creating that and see what unfolds, but not thinking that it should be everywhere, or that could be accessible for as much as possible, because probably most of people are not ready or don't want, simply don't want. So for example, most of the teenagers that I spoke with, it was clear that they didn't want, they didn't had interest at all in some of the things I was sharing. And what I'm turned on is about creating things because I'm turned on. And it's a kind of selfishness somehow when I speak, but because I want that thing to exist and I'm turned on by it, and I feel a lot of joy just by the fact of creating it. And if one person came, it's one person.
Yeah.
If two person come, it's two person. This is what I'm turned on, and then I hold that vision, and whoever is ready will come. So it's a different approach, instead from like making accessible to what and I'm turned on, and which kind of initiations and I'm holding space for, and how and I'm making visible so the people that are their next step, they can find me. Who are ready will find me. And by ready I mean like who needs that. So it's a different approach that I bring as an addition to your question.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I had this cool sensation of connected also to you were saying the bright principle of initiation. And this means that it is a facet of, like, it's a force of nature, and it's there with all other bright principles. Yeah. And it's like, for some reason, it's being called in through me, through you, through lots of people at the moment, and the necessity is there, and it's almost like the archetype or the portal to initiation gets opened when the necessity is there, and it's like there's no need for, yeah, and in that there's a lot of like joy in creating and becoming aware of that, and it's not about like marketing that or forcing it or making it something that it's not. It's just like something needs to change. I'm sensing for myself that something needs to change, and I need something for that, and initiation is as close as I can get to what that hunger is in me is for. And when I have that, these doors open, these people come into my life, these spaces open, and it's like, oh, okay, that and that.
And my fear is telling about the time. I check now. And I want to. We agree 1 hour, and I want to start to drive to the end. This conversation for now.
Yes.
Do you have some question that bubbled up, or some final thought or feeling you want to share?
Oh, I notice I feel a lot of joy to speak about this with you. I feel passion in me as well.
Yeah, I really tried to have that conversation, because somehow by speaking and creating the words, and most of the things I'm starting to experiment or holding space for or discover it and unfold, like it's just the beginning for me. And as for you, there is this joy about discovery while speaking and and creating, like the what is possible, creating what is possible while speaking. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And one thing that I had as a dream, and came when I was writing, I was doing an experiment of writing a $100 million plan. So it's like, okay, if, if no, what will you do with 100 million dollars? And I was writing that, and then one of the things that came dream, it is to building, to having community centers to young people all over the world. And I want to start one, like a pilot, where like young people that want to refugee, like refugees of the culture, can come to practice the skills and to mobilize more resources in their lives. And in the website 18, what now I'm calling University of Living. And this is like a vision or a dream that I see as possible. So I love conversations where this seed of what is possible can unfold.